will start with the first question. As you know better than me, three of the most important political bloggers in the US are of Greek origin. Is this just a coincidence, or the genes of a race like the Greek one, which is well known for its love for politics, have something to do with that?
And love of speaking.
Yes, exactly.
I've never met a Greek who doesn't like to express his opinion. And I mean Greek Americans, of course, but I'm sure the Greek Greeks, as we call you, are the same. I don't know. That was something I noticed maybe a year or two ago. That it was very interesting that you had three of the top bloggers, at least on the left in the States, were of Greek origin. I don't know. I mean, I think what's interesting in the States in general is Greeks are disproportionately powerful in the States. Meaning, we're not that large a community. I don't know if it's 2 million Greek Americans, but out of 300 million people, that's not that big. But Greeks have much more power in terms of in business and politics than our numbers would suggest. So I wouldn't be surprised in blogging too, because we just, whatever you did to us, you did a good thing. Whatever you Greeks gave us, it was good, but because it's made Greek Americans pretty successful, yeah.
What is the future of blogging? Is it the future of journalism, as some people say?
I don't know the future. It's funny. I've never loved questions about the future because I don't know. Especially when you're talking about the internet. The future is 6 months.
The power of blogging.
But again, I can tell you the power now. I mean, there's a couple questions. First of all, the way your question was asked kind of sounds a little bit like the question about are blogs journalists or are blogs something else? Are they activists? And in the answer to that question, it depends on the blog, but also I think many blogs are both. My blog is certainly both. Sometimes we're journalists, other times we're activists. Sometimes we're gossip columnists. So sometimes we are more lighthearted. We are trying to write about things that are a little more fun. Sometimes we're writing very long stories of original research we've done on something, and that is journalism. As far as the future, the future in internet terms is difficult to predict more than I think a year or two, because within a couple of years everything changes. In the States, it's only been in the last 4 years that blogs, I think, became very powerful. And that's just been 4 years. The internet's been around for 30 years, really, or 40 years, but in terms of being the World Wide Web, has only been around since the early 90s, mid-90s. So for most of us, we've only had the internet 10, 13 years. So when you think of it that way, I don't know actually. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see, in the States at least, where the blogs go after this election. Because I think this election is already becoming an interesting test for the left and the right, because we've never been disinvolved before. We're not just involved, but we also have better connections with each of our parties. I mean, John McCain does regular calls with his blogs on the left. And on the right, we know Obama's people, we know the Democratic Party. We're more integrated than we ever have been before, and I think it's going to be interesting to see not just what impact it has, but where it goes next.
Okay. You know that traditional media is in crisis worldwide due to low circulation, the fall in advertising revenues, etc. Do you believe that we have to blame the internet for that? I mean, people start reading newspapers from the internet instead of going to the kiosk and buy?
I think to some degree, yes. I don't know if I would use the word blame, so to speak, but I know even for myself, for example, I get the Washington Post I live in Washington. It's our hometown paper. It's also a very good paper. I have the Washington Post deliver the actual paper to my apartment each day. In 1 week, I could have 3 or 4 or 5 copies of the newspaper in plastic that I haven't even opened, because I get my news online. I wake up in the morning, I make a cup of coffee, and I immediately read on the internet all the news. And I go to Yahoo, I go to Google, I may even go to the Washington Post, the New York Times. I get all my news online. It's the real news, but I don't really read the newspaper in print. I don't, even the evening news. I don't watch the evening news, the news at night, the big national news. I don't watch it very much anymore. I used to all the time, because I'm getting news all day long now.
And you don't pay a subscription for reading the Washington Post.
I do.
You do?
I do, I just don't read it.
No, I mean for reading
Not
paper
online.
online.
No, it's free online.
It's free.
It's free, yeah.